What is up, guys? Today I'm going to walk you through how to jack up your Porsche Cayman or Boxster and safely and effectively place it on a set of jack stands. My name is James Victor. I am a Porsche and motorsports enthusiast who has owned, performance-driven, and been working on Porsche vehicles hands-on for over 10 years. My channel is dedicated to Porsche ownership insights and the hands-on art of driving and maintaining these amazing machines. Today I'm going to walk you through the method in which I prefer to do this and the method that I've been using for over 10 years with great success. We're going to be working on my 2006 Porsche Cayman S today, so let's get started. It's extremely important to work on as flat and level of a surface as possible. You're also going to want to make sure that your car is in gear and that you set the rear e-brake to minimize any movement of the rear wheels. You're going to need a low profile floor jack and a hockey puck. Now what this hockey puck does is this acts as a protective barrier between the bottom of the jacking tray on the floor jack and the factory jacking point on your Porsche vehicle. Using a hockey puck, or if you don't have a hockey puck, using a small piece of wood, ensures that there's no metal-to-metal contact and that the factory jacking point on the Porsche vehicle does not get damaged in any way. Next, you're going to want a nice set of jack stands. I personally prefer using these Esco flat top jack stands. I find that they work extremely well with the flat factory jacking points on the Porsche vehicles. They have this nice wide base, so the vehicle is extremely well supported once it's placed on them. Next, I have a set of 2x12s cut into 1-foot sections. Now these serve a couple of purposes. First, you can use these to chock the wheels if you don't have traditional wheel chocks. And second, you're going to need to place these underneath the rear tires once you lift the front end of the vehicle. Once the front end of the vehicle is raised, you're going to have limited ground clearance to fit a floor jack underneath the rear of the vehicle. Putting these underneath each rear tire ensures you're going to have enough ground clearance to fit your floor jack underneath the rear of the vehicle. Next, I have a set of wheel chocks if you prefer to use these versus the 2x12s to chock your wheels. Last, and totally optional, I have a set of race deck tiles. As I have epoxy coated floors, I prefer to place these between the bottom of the floor and the jack stands to minimize any sort of damage that could possibly occur to my epoxy floors. Before we get started, here's a real quick look at the factory jacking point in the rear of the vehicle. And over in the front, this is going to be what your front jacking point looks like. We're going to get started lifting our vehicle. Now the order in which we're going to perform this is, we're going to lift the vehicle by each of the rear factory jacking points, placing our front jack stands. We will then move on to the rear of the vehicle, which we will lift in its entirety and place jack stands underneath both of the factory jacking points. First, we're going to ensure we chock our wheels on the opposite side of the car. Now placing our front jack stand. And then grabbing our 2x12 to put underneath the rear tire. We'll then let the vehicle down slowly. We're now moving on to repeat this process on the opposite side. Placing our other front jack stand. Once again, before we lower the vehicle, we want to ensure we put this 2x12 underneath the rear tire. So at this point, we have the front of the vehicle in the air and safely secured by jack stands at the front factory jacking points. Now with the front of our vehicle stable and secure, we're going to move on to raising the entire rear of the vehicle in one shot. I'm going to show you all the preferred jacking point that I prefer to use. We're now underneath the rear of the vehicle and I'm showing you my preferred lifting spot, which is the suspension mounting point that attaches the suspension to the rear of the chassis and is very strong. I've been lifting all my Porsche Cayman vehicles by this exact spot for the last 10 years with zero issues. We're now going to raise the entire rear of our vehicle and then place our jack stands. As you can see, the entire rear of the vehicle is now lifted and supported by this jacking point. Now placing our driver's side jack stand, and now placing our passenger side jack stand. And now letting the rear of the vehicle down slowly. All right, y'all, so you can see our Porsche vehicle is now lifted and safely supported by jack stands at all of the 4 factory jacking points. All right, y'all, we now have our Porsche Cayman lifted and safely secured on a set of jack stands. I hope that this video gives you the confidence that you need to be able to lift your Porsche Cayman or Boxster on your own. Shoot me some comments, let me know how this goes for you. Let me know if you run into any issues. As always, if you guys found this video helpful today, be sure to give it a thumbs up to help support the channel. And if you're not a current subscriber, consider subscribing. As always, I'd like to thank you guys for hanging out, supporting the channel, and checking it out. Talk to y'all soon.